After doing a bunch of stuff in game engines, I thought, why don't I just take a step back? So, I decided to learn OpenGL. Now, my main goal with this is to just learn graphics programming, because I can't lie, it looks really interesting to get into, if not a bit annoying with all the memory management you have to do. So, I set myself a task, and that was to learn and understand everything that goes into rotating a cube. Honestly, after going through this, I can safely say that I do somewhat understand it, but I just couldn't explain it myself, so let's get into it. Now, with OpenGL, it does make sense to pick a language like C, because that's what all the old school game devs used. But however, I do not know how to make a good C program, so it's way better for me to use a language that I do know really well, and that's C#. Now, there's two main bindings you can use for this, either OpenTK or Silk.net. And after some research, people said that Silk.net has less documentation compared to OpenTK, but their website looked cooler, so I chose Silk. Then, I got to work at doing their basic Windows setup, and got this neat little thing. Then I was able to connect up input to it. Nice. Now, by this point, we hadn't done anything to do with OpenGL whatsoever yet. But now, it was time to make a quad. Now, OpenGL, as I found out, is essentially just a state machine. So, it's about setting states and buffers and all that. The main things I've found important are literally just the buffers, and also having to tell the program how to handle data. The first thing we did was to turn the background blue, which was actually really easy. You just tell it the colour, and then set the state so that it actually colours the background. Simple, really. Then we moved on to creating the actual buffers. Each of these buffers seem to have a very generic reason to be around. They need to be specified by you that they do something special. Here's the neat thing about Silk.net is that you'll have to get into memory management anyways. No escaping behind C#'s compiler anymore. And to be honest, this is the first time I've ever used unsafe, and I had to tell my IDE to allow it. What this means is that I can easily make memory leaks. The library does have a safe way of doing this, but I didn't learn that way, so this'll do for now. The good thing about doing new things is you get to learn new things, right? Like, I just figured out that fix is a keyword in C#, so that's cool. Now, after learning about element buffer objects, which they're essentially just the same thing as something you do in like Unity, where you create a mesh using indices, right? I copied the shader code and then finally displayed my first shape, which is a square. Now, this is actually cool, but I want a cube, so let's go further. Now, I thought, why not use another tutorial for a cube? And then the first tutorial just told me to hope for the best. So, I stepped back a bit, and redeveloped my graphic solution so that I can easily make new shapes. Turns out, you can do quite a bit once you understand buffers. Like, there's one vertex buffer can pretty much store all the simple shapes I need. All I need to do is give out some attributes for where the vertices and colours are stored. The code for storing the colours as well was horrid to look at, because I think it's better to store vertex colour data together. I don't know. It sounds wrong, but OpenGL handles it pretty well, I think. Anyways, I made a little static class that makes these shapes for me pretty easily, so I didn't have to think about the vertices myself. With all this newly acquired knowledge, also learning about how shaders actually work, and let me tell you, they're quite nifty, I was able to render multiple squares at once. Now, with all that dilly-dallying out of the way, we can finally get back to the original purpose of this journey. The cube. Now, I thought it'll be quite easy to just generate a cube automatically without considering rotations at first, so that's what I did. The code is mostly the same, except we have depth, and also I wrote out all 36 of the indices, because I created the vertices in such a weird way that I was not bothered figuring out a function for this. I mean, it worked. Rotation is another matter, but luckily, because of linear algebra, you could just rotate each vertex with the same rotation matrix and connect it up like nothing ever happened. So, that was easy. However, because of how I made my wrapper over Silk, which by extension, OpenGL, I realised for a rotating cube, I would have to do a significant rewrite of it. So let's avoid that and just smash my way through the last part of this. Yeah, not my proudest work, but it definitely worked, which leads us to this rotating cube. Now, for some reason, I managed to spend 2 hours on figuring out why this back face was clipping, but it turns out I didn't give the Z plane enough space to work on. It was literally clipping through the camera. Anyways, here's a fully finished rotating cube. I can't lie, I had quite a bit of fun on this, and I actually did what I wanted to do. The real question is, would I continue doing OpenGL? No. Well, not in the near future, that is. Graphics programming is fun, but I need to use something a tad bit easier so I can do stuff faster. On the plus side, I actually learned quite a bit about the basics of graphics, so back to the game engines for me. Thank you for making it this far. If you watched through all that and enjoyed it, then please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to me, because that would help me out a lot. See ya.